Good morning and welcome to our midweek edition of Summit, coming to you live from our studios in Lagos. Of course, on the program we talk politics, we discuss national issues, and you can be very sure that every information you get on this program is always apt and accurate. My name is Chimoke Michaels. Banji, good to be here. Good morning.
Great to be here. Somebody was just joking with me a few minutes ago that I was very joyous. I said, well, I have every reason to be joyous, even though I have not got my ram yet for Ileya, but I know I have my health, and the gift of life is still very much there. We thank God for all of that. So for all those who are still looking for ram, I pray that Almighty God will provide for you. Those that have got, I hope the ram will not disappear or be stolen. And I just as I wish every Nigerian a very, very happy Eid this time around. My name is Banji Usari.
All right, so we're going to be having two segments on the program today, but we're going to be talking about politics and also economy. And we'll also be looking at having Lagos State in focus. But before then, we'll go on a quick break, and then when we return, we'll have our first guest for today. So please stay with us. We'll be right back. Okay, it's still Summit, and we'll be going into the first segment today, and we title it Campaign Issues Towards 2023 Elections. Campaign Issues Towards 2023 Elections. And we have with us in the studio Mr. Razak Olukoba, Public Affairs Analyst. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Viewers at home, good morning.
Well, it's our pleasure to have you here. We are gradually inching towards that period
I
where...
thought you said you are distributing RAM.
Yes, it will get to your turn. Well, it will get to
A
you.
friend was taking a picture with RAM. I said, what if he said, in a lifetime, I want people to know that I give RAM, because next year, only God knows.
No, only God knows.
With the price of RAM.
Nothing is certain.
With the price of RAM.
The list is maybe about 120 this year.
Yes, so...
All right, we're looking at the campaign issues, those issues that we believe should actually take the front burner when it comes to campaign period. We're coming from a political party that has been in the saddle for 7 years, going to 8 years now. And the political party came with a 3-point agenda. See, it's to tackle insecurity, fix economy, and then bring down corruption. Now, to a large extent, many Nigerians believe that the administration has not done enough to actually prosecute those 3 points. Now, the new parties now, the APC will be going back to the voters, to the electorate in the next couple of months. PDP will also be going to the same electorates, and NNPP and all of the Labour Party. Now, for you, with the benefit of hindsight, where we're coming from, what issues should actually be germane that the political party should actually be discussing when they get to campaign points?
Well, thank you very much. And I think that's what we should be telling our people, that instead of decimating each other's candidates, we should be talking about what they are bringing on board. Because we won't be taken serious by the rest of the world if people who have gotten to the height of Atiku, Ashwaju, Jagaban, Peter Obi, and Kwame Kwato, we now suddenly remember that they don't have primary school certificate. The rest of them will not take us serious. That's what are you talking about? So we should be focusing on the programs of their political parties. And good enough, all these major political parties have been in power at various levels. They has won election either as a councillor or as a chairman. So
even as a governor?
Yes, dito for NNPP. And for PDP and APC, they are also in power. So it shows clearly that all the model all of us have been talking about, we should be looking at the model, both economic and political model. And that is why you see my reluctance each time the politician somersault on that Buhari. I don't criticize, because I said at the beginning that we should be careful of expecting something spectacular from this political structure. And I said that for me, I am not going to vote against Buhari. If your car is not good, you will repair the car. It's not the driver. And our focus has always been the president of Nigeria. What else is the structure? The political and economic model that Nigeria is working on can never guarantee us prosperity. It's not possible. The reason why we have challenge we have in the country is because we don't design a model. The model on ground is a model where we concentrate the economic control in the hand of the federal government. Who runs the government like that? You have to give up power. All the central and key issues about economy is not with the component parts. It's not with the state, it's not with the private sector. If you see any businessman doing well today, he has government patronage. And it's not the fault of the businessman, it's not the fault of anybody. That's how our country is done. When they say, that's how a country is done. It's not I do my business, and I want to patronize government, so I'm not breaking any law if I'm doing that. But what we are saying is that there must be an attention on how we are going to structure Nigeria. No matter how difficult for people to admit, that is the truth. And I have absolute confidence in the party APC, and that's what brings us our alliance with the civil society. We must look for the current economic model where we generate, party system will generate money, we give it back to federal government, federal government now divide the party system again and tell me what kind of monotonous exercise is that? What we are saying is that the only moment in our life we have ever prospered as a people was between up to 1966, when we say that component parts control the economy. We have 70 million Nigerian, 70% of youth in Nigeria who make up Nigeria, 70% of the population. Is it federal government that generates employment for 70% of the population? It's not. It's the component part, the states control, who generate the economy, who controls the power sector, who controls the origin sector, who controls the IT and in conjunction with the private sector. But that's not what we are doing. And that's what we should compel all candidates to tell us. That are you looking away from the current economic model? That's one. Then two, the political model too, where power is so much in the center. One raised security report from over 20 agencies in a day. And he has 24 hours like me and you. You cannot saddle that kind of responsibility to your president and you think he's going to perform. So I said at the beginning that if one fails, it's not his fault. It's our fault that we're giving this model. It's his fault for not admitting that this structure will not work. It's his fault for that. But for not making the structure work, no, it can't work with this structure.
When you talk of political model, just to clarify, you're talking about the 1999 Constitution.
The Constitution, one, and the political model where it says that the power to appoint the ministers, even generation of light, to generate light, you must take it to the national data before you bring it back. You don't do that. In even Kawakana, there's a federal government Kada in Lagos, in all the states. So Fashola is working assiduously. But all the work he's doing, you still have some portals all over the country. And it's not his fault. By the time you develop power, allow state to take over control of their territory, full and complete control, except some small issues of where it has to do with some aspect of power generation.
So you say that this should be the germane
issues
about
yes.
the campaign.
About the campaign. How do you intend to solve the security issue? Security issue is not because we don't have enough guns and bullets. It was because our economy is bad, and when you have an economic depression, you have a corresponding monetary depression. Then why is our economy bad? Our economy is bad because the way we run our economy, we cannot have it.
So what can the
Devolve
candidates,
power.
what can, okay, that's...
No,
Devolve power.
you're looking at fundamental issues.
Yes.
related to constitution this time around.
Yes, when the president gets to power, when the government goes, that's the action should be looking at. And good for us. To my shock, Obasanjo has been talking about state police, and that's unforgiving for me. We engaged him severally when he was in power, that after 8 years, taking salary for 8 years, policy for 8 years, just realizing that. So good for us. Atiku is also saying that, state police is the issue, restructuring is the issue. And Asiwaju has been an advocate of restructuring all the days of his life. So good for us that this candidate are beginning to realize, people who were reluctant to admit have now realized that there's no way we are going to do about it. We have 250 million Nigerians under the auspices of one.
Those issues, the issues you have raised so far now, it's not far from what the vision that the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, had for him to have actually put in place the CONFAB, that is, established the CONFAB, came out with a report.
Yeah.
That report was not implemented till he left office. Yeah. And only recently, about a month ago, he was responding to criticisms that he failed to implement at an opportune time. In his response, he said, people who criticize did not understand the dynamics of governance. Now, even if the next government brings up that issue of maybe reviewing or restructuring and all that, do you think it will work?
Well, the first thing is that all of us, some of us are also guilty of it. The restructuring must not be made to look as if it is anti a particular agreement. If you say you are going to restructure a country and you are saying that the hands, so this southwest with your hands, so that we now restructure, it will not be mean to our opposite. It's been made to look as if it's anti-north restructure. Whereas it's not anti-north. It's an invitation to prosperity for all of us. We have very huge resources in the north that the way to unbundle it is when the state have control of their resources. But the federal government has been mismanaging the resources, not because they intend to, but because of the structure we operate. For instance, a state that has economy, you bring someone who has not seen oil in his life to become the minister of oil. But when they just control their economy, let them resolve their own environmental crisis, because oil is the nutrient of the soil. You flare gas in the night. There's a scientific explanation that there must be night for us to reconfigure the physiognomy of human being. But in their place, we have daylight 24 hours. It affects their thinking, it affects their way of life. So they know the danger of not doing the right thing in their own region. But if you someone from that region, what else in his own region? You have bitumen. You have to elect that used to bring a continental museum for the north to become a superpower. We didn't even invest it. The tantalum is like this, 5 grain. Uranium is $500,000 per ton. So all these things are there. 4% of the world resources resides in Nigeria. That's huge. We don't have the business with poverty. So what we are saying in essence is that there's the need for Nigerians to stop distractions. We have to, they need to talk to us. The rest of us are not waiting for us. Of course, there are wars all over the world. Nigeria has a school dropout that is shocking. Even countries at war, our children are dropping out of school on a daily basis. That is, even Ukraine, they are improvising. They are taking their children to school. But in Nigeria, it's not the case. That's our future. So what we are looking at, or as a member of civil society, is that we have created a platform where we have been touching, we are meeting with political parties, that there's the need for your party to come up with a manifesto that will give Nigeria the impression that yes, we are beginning to get to charters for political parties. If we don't do that, we shouldn't be expecting any miracle from the coming president. As for APC, I am convinced that for APC has a body language that is receptive to restructuring. And go for Atiku too, who has also realized that the 8 years of as a vice president and Obasanjo, he realized what we've been telling him, that if you are there, it's going to be much ado about nothing. You will be approving budget in there, you'll be talking about billions of naira intervention. I won't get to where you're supposed to get. 36 Commission of Education, Senate Committee on Education, House of Rep on Education, 36 House of Assembly on Education, Universal Basic Education, University Commission, Polytechnic Commission, on this slim budget of education. That's why the lecturers are not paid. That's why they are not paid. All these cuttings, all the here and there. We have to improvise all these payment of salary. Why do we have to pay money meant for our children to buy chemicals for agriculture? Money that's meant to subsidize agriculture. That's why we are still looking at this as people, Nigerian who operate our Nigerian economy. we are supposed to be subsidizing, but because we use it to pay salary, it goes into committees, and at the end of the day, we are parties off for farmer, we are parties off for the tenants who are supposed to be going on research. Things are changing every day. The profile of the art is changing. They said art is too polluted. Art is becoming more poisonous, and people are going into space. Are they taking down people in Nigeria? We are not. You are still here. So our lecturers are supposed to be doing this research. We are not done, and that's their concern, and that's the noise they are making about it. So for political parties, we need a very strong manifesto. I was sending this message to them that the previous program we have run as PDP and the one APC is running currently, if Buhari had run under a proper thing, he would become an hero with his commitment. Because I can see my time when he's talking. What is it that I didn't get right? He doesn't seem to understand the reason why Nigerians are angry with him. And the reason is because the structure of the country because he's responsible for everything according to the Nigerian constitution. So he says the expectation for him is he must do everything for us, whereas it's not supposed to be so. So you see, he now first that with all the things I'm doing, he don't seem to appreciate, and we can't appreciate him. We have warned that the way Obasanjo left office, the system plotted us against Obidi. In his last days of office, we were almost stoning him. When Jonathan was going to, we are supposed to be telling the truth. We won't support APC is my friend. I am an apology of APC. Now, when Jonathan also came on board, it was as if Jonathan committed a particular crime in another lifetime against us when he was leaving. And the picture has been remarked for Buhari now. And we said, why can't you learn from OBD? Learn from Jonathan. You need to do something about this structure.
Okay, now,
it's important.
Good, and as brilliant as your submission is, an average person out there in Nigeria is more interested in what he can get. Now, do you think those high-sounding words do not sound too intellectual for an average Nigerian at campaign points? He probably, an average voter or elector, is more interested in how would you solve problem of food crisis? How would you improve on maybe the employment of our children that have been out of school? How would you fix the economy so much so that our naira would actually also gain some value, greater value? And those are the issues that an average Nigerian, do you think, the issue of constitution would actually interest an average person?
It's over beyond constitution. Instruction is not about constitution. Instruction is bigger than the constitution itself. So don't limit it to constitution. I'm talking about it.
Then how would
it's a structure. Constitution is what you have agreed on. Then you bind it together with the law, which is the constitution. So it's bigger than it. But I got your point. You see, gradualism is what we're talking about since 1999. And that's why we are not moving. This gradual process is a time waster. A doctor says you need a solution. No, close the wound, close the wound. When you close the wound and you choose God that it's not healing, we need a surgery. Don't let us be taking a step forward all the time and taking 10 steps backward. What we are supposed to do for the sake of our children, the country is not looking good. And the reason why it's not looking good is because we're talking about gradualism. Obasanjo came with some agendas, a program, a reform, and we won. They said, you don't say anything good. Okay, look at what Lagos is doing. Look at what Lagos is working. The federal government should come and lend me more. They will be telling me that saying because we are in Lagos, we are a friend of Lagos, we are. No! Lagos is planning for the future every day. On security, there's the neighborhood. On traffic, there's the last man. Learn from some of the things that Lagos is doing. 25 million people on a small patch of land, the smallest land mass in the whole of Nigeria. And people clamor to come in. Since 1992, we've been receiving our data, our research shows that 10 people come into Lagos, only 2 people live. The problem is increasing every day, and they are managing. When they say, in Lagos, they created employment for them, to not become security talent. So in Nigeria too, talk to our people to have the courage to admit that we have a challenge. Let Nigerians realize that there's no gradual process in this whole thing. It's going to be a fundamental restructuring of our country, and that's what the country we're talking to us about. They are ready. All of us have their own manifesto. They have their own program. But don't distract them. Create a template for, create a platform for them. Don't let actually be responding to certificate of primary school every day. Actually be responding to it, not from Nigeria again, from Nigeria. They say Obi is laboring in vain. They say Obi is going to labor in vain. What's our business with it? Then Kwankwaso is, somehow this kind of petty
so what should the
issues
people be doing now?
What we are doing here is what they should be doing. What we are talking about today. That what are you bringing on board for us?
That's
We
what
have
they should
security
be
challenge.
asking.
We have economic challenge. What is the genesis of our economic challenge? Which is simple. You cannot control the create a template for the economy to prosper. Then private sector keys into it, state keys into it. The state, look at what Lagos is doing. You have been robbing Lagos all the days of their life. Cairo, Johannesburg, and Lagos are the most prosperous states in Africa. But go and look at what you did again to Cairo. Look at what South Africa is doing to Johannesburg. Nothing from Africa to Lagos to Ghana. Nothing. Virtually nothing. You can't allow it still country don't prosper like that. When you have a key sector of your country and you treat it the way they are treating Lagos, you can't grow. It's not a personal thing. It's important for the coming president, either APC, looking good, PDP, or whatever, to realize that there's the need for us to change the political and economic model. In the rest of the world today, why can't I contribute to PDP and APC? It's simple. The manifesto is not talking to you. It's not talking about. If the manifesto talks about all age now, airline owners will contribute to the campaign. If it's about agrarian policy that you are bringing on board, that this is what we intend to do, you will see farmers contributing to it. So when people say the rest of you are doing something, I say because we are not doing that way. If you see telecom industry, the manifesto is talking about a fundamental reform in this. This government is our own. The people under the camera, a businessman an Indian got the highest honor in the land. It's because of the policy of the Labour Party there that time. It's because the manifesto gives you a direction. You see, the Republicans, they will never become Democrats because of a clear-cut ideology of what they believe in. Have you ever seen an imam because they didn't make money more of a mosque, he now become a Christian? Did you ever see a pastor because he now become a Muslim and say, I want to go and become? And that's what we do in Nigeria. You don't get your ticket from another party job, and because there's no clear-cut ideology. So our guys are coming out now. I know they are ready for us. They have their manifesto. That I have also confidence that what has a manifesto is in an order to work. But we are distracting him. Atiku is from Nigeria. That's not how to talk to. Of course, that's his own fans. And because his fans, you are saying things, the fans will be responding to the party issues you are raising. So Nigerians, you must be focused. This is the only country we are. If you want another country to survive, we have to behave the way Americans behave to their political plan. We have to behave the way Britons behave to their political plan. We have to behave like people of the countries that are working, the way they behave, give them a chance to express themselves. Blackmail won't change me from voting who I want to vote. Blackmail will not change me. And blackmail will not also change, but blackmail and other candidates don't change their own candidate. We have millions of Nigerians who are undecided, who want to listen to what they have to say. But certificate issue today is petty. We are not teaching the young guys that are coming up because the young guys came into it. When we were at their age, that's not what we were discussing. We were discussing fundamental, the impact of SHARP. That was the first time I was sent out of school. The structural adjustment program, the danger and the implication. I was baptized in 1989 by giving education for 2 years. The children, the younger people are not looking at that. If that has nobody did not have certificate to, and Atiku is not there from Nigeria. Those are things we're teaching our children.
Maybe Tinubu should not pick another Muslim running mate.
That doesn't show us as civilized people. It doesn't show us as civilized people. It takes and the young people are a bit disappointed in them. We are toying with their future, and we allow them to be toying with our future. I'm about 50 already.
This education will still continue
This
because
is phase one.
This education will continue because we are just entering into the campaign season. So we need to talk much more about things like this to make sure that the people get the right perspective when it comes to politicking, elections, and choosing the candidates that will do the work of restoring Nigeria's glory. Thank you so much, sir, for
It's a
joining
pleasure.
us this morning. Thank you.
We can't really
Barika
can't
de
tell you
Sallah
in advance. We really
Told
can't
us
tell you.
you're on your way to
I
your
saw some
village.
ram. Oh.
We will
You brought
visit
us
you.
ram?
I saw some ram.
We will visit
Is
you.
it
We will come over to
Is
Ilorin.
that souvenir?
We will come over to Ilorin.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you, sir.
It's a pleasure.
All right, so that's the first segment of the program. We'll be transiting to another discussion. So please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Baba.
Welcome back. In this segment of the program, we have Lagos State in focus, and we have joining us for that discussion Honorable Commissioner for Information and Strategy, Lagos State, Mr. Gbenga Omotoso. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
It's our pleasure to have you here. That's our periodic engagement with Lagos State on what is actually happening within this state. It's our pleasure to have you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, so last month when the total ban on Okada was announced, everybody received that it will actually be total in about 6 local government areas of Lagos. And then as an addendum to that, Okada ban squad was inaugurated to ensure that enforcement is also total. Could you give us an update on that before we ask some other questions regarding Okada ban?
Well, thank you so much. To be brief about the update, I think we're so far so good. In terms of the numbers, we have had about 4,850 motorcycles impounded since that ban was announced by Mr. Governor Mr. Bayo recently. Those are since local government area. But there is a mistake that we are making that the ban is just about those are six local government areas. Also, the law, Lagos State Traffic Law 2012 that prohibits running of Okada on major highways, and on other places, you see that light and being followed better. So in those six local governments, we do not want to see Okada, but they must not be visible, they must not be bad, they must not be seen in any way. But in all the other local governments, you must not ride Okada on highways, you must not ride Okada on major roads, you must not ride Okada on bridges. So like I said, there are the challenges. Some people who are spread to police, the Okada people, they have been trying to collaborate with them. That's just a few people. But all in all, the police have tried their best. The other law enforcement agencies have collaborated with the state government so well that we have been able to achieve the results that we are seeing. Then the resistance has shown one thing, which is very important for the Russians to note, that the guys who are in this business, they can be very violent. And in fact, because of the violence, part of the reason why the government decided to move against that mode of transportation, apart from the fact that it's not in our record as the kind of a mode of transportation that we need for the greater Lagos. The violence perpetrated by this particular group of people. We have seen people went out there to enforce the law being attacked by these people with dangerous weapons. People have been taken to hospital. But the good thing about it is that doctors are now happy. They don't get too many emergency cases coming from Okada. Even the police are happy. People who use Okada as get away from branches. They are now fewer than they used to be. So in summary, so far so good. But we have worked for the government. The enforcement will have been total if our people decide not to patronize Okada. If our people decide to say that it's better to have their lives and lives in place instead of just wasting your blood on Okada in an Okada accident. So people who still patronize them, we have a work for them. They should stop patronizing them. If there are no passengers, there will be no riders. So far so good.
Okay, so far so good. Can you actually help us put a figure to the level of compliance so far? You said about 4,800 motorcycles have been impounded so far. But regarding the review or maybe a kind of evaluation of what the success rate has been, can you put a figure to?
I think it's about 90%.
90?
Those local governments, yes, 90%. Because the guys who ride Okada, they keep on devising new ways of running the business. But the government keeps on providing alternatives and keeps on tackling the enforcement. The first mile and last mile was as I was coming out.
Yes, I was coming to that. Yes.
In Ikeja and all that. So if you go and ride Okada in Ikeja, you'll be committing a crime, and then the law will move against you. So far, I think the rate of compliance is very high. We are very comfortable with it. And we feel that with the cooperation of the Russians, that if they own the ban and see why the government feels that this ban has been raised and enforced, and it's going to be better than that, what we are aiming at is 100%.
All right, so when you talk about Ikeja, sorry, so I need to clarify this, and you look at a place like Ogba, Axis, is this ban supposed to extend to that area?
This is local government. If Ogba is part of Ikeja, why not? And like I said, everywhere in Lagos where you have a major highway, where you have a major road, where you have a bridge, they are not supposed to be visible in all the places.
There is a problem in that side. Because to see them, I think the first 2 days, there was a kind of fear. Everyone kind of disappeared. But towards the end of that week, maybe because the enforcement wasn't too intense, they are back there and it's like business as usual.
In Ogba?
Yes.
I'll check that one.
Even on Agidi Road here, over the weekend, I saw a couple of them flying the road, and I was asking myself, this is the seat of government, this is Ikeja. I was wondering where the police were for them to actually do their business as if nothing has happened.
Now, I have seen around Agidi, around the Allen Avenue, members of the Lagos State Task Force dealing with these Okada people who are trying to go into Arunre and some inner places. These people call us, they have numbers for when they see this kind of thing. And then immediately the tax force people will go there and dislodge them. But like I said, why would people patronize them? People are not patronizing them.
Maybe people patronize them because we do not have, from my own estimation, we do not have enough number of last mile buses around. I mean, when there's a scarcity, the situation in Lagos State, when people leave work 5 p.m., 6 p.m., and they spend 1 hour at bus stop, they probably will jump at any opportunity to get home. At the last mile, but the government effort to provide more How far with the government comes?
We are 500. And yeah, and they are being pushed into the system gradually. And then we also have the lad rats, don't forget, 1,000 of them, which are being pitched with security gadgets and then being pushed into the system. But there's one question that, one statement that I usually make when people say that they have to patronize Okada because there is nothing else to do. Apart from the alternative that the government is providing, was Shiki not feeding on something before the arrival of the corn? Why must people now feel that they cannot do without Okada because Okada takes them into their bedroom?
In front of their lips.
That's what I'm saying, into their bedroom. So I feel that it's a misconception of the whole thing. If they feel that government is going to provide an alternative that will take them into their bedroom.
One question I must actually ask you before we leave this issue is the 4,800 motorbikes that were impounded. What happened to them?
As I speak with you, they are being crushed. We made a public show of it recently, and I'm going to recommend to you that it has to continue. They are being crushed.
There's an allegation that there are some saboteurs, people in government and the security, who are, instead of crushing, as you have just said, they crush maybe 20 and sell out 200. They are taken out of the state, some are even taken to neighboring states.
There will always be allegations. There will always be allegations, there will always be misconceptions, there will always be all manner of imaginary postulations by people. So I do not feel that people are saying that are correct. I've seen them in action, the tax force people, and I've seen them take Okada into their yard, and I've seen them crush Okada right, before the media. It's just that we cannot be calling the media every day to come and see. And if I'm talking about 4,850, that's quite considerable. Considerable.
Yeah. Okay. As a follow-up to this issue of Okada ban, which you said there's a particular set of people who exhibit a lot of violence, which was what precipitated the ban, part of the reason for the ban. Now, Lagos State has been awarded, or maybe the governor described the state as a safe haven for refugees, and that Lagos State welcomes people from all over the country.
The refugee-friendly state.
Refugee-friendly state. Now, if you look at that, that means anybody can come and be resident in Lagos. Now, how is the state managing these issues, aside the Okada ban? Issues of ethnicity, religion, tribalism, all these things come into play when you say we are a refugee-friendly state.
Yeah, like I usually say, Lagos is a victim of its own success. If you go around Nigeria now, hardly can you find any place in Nigeria where you do not have one serious crime or the other. In Lagos, the government is not sleeping so that Lagosians can sleep with their two eyes closed. In Lagos, government is pumping in a lot of money into security so that people can have a peace of mind, so that people can have investments in Lagos. That is why Lagos is the biggest attractor of investments in Nigeria, foreign direct investments. But the constitution does not permit us to stop people from coming into Lagos. So everybody comes into Lagos. So what Lagos has been able to do is to increase its surveillance. Lagos has been able to strengthen neighborhood watch for them to be able to supply information to the security agencies. Lagos have been able to forge a kind of collaboration between it and then security agencies. Lagos has been able to cooperate with the police to strengthen their equipment, to strengthen their personnel, to strengthen their psyche, to let them know that we are with them in their battle to ensure that Lagos is secure. So if we say Lagos is refugee friendly, it doesn't mean that anybody can just jump into Lagos and do whatever he likes. That is why Lagos has said anybody who is coming to Lagos to spend more than 3 months, you come and take last track card. If you take last track card, it's going to enable us to be able to know that you are in Lagos and be able to provide for you in terms of health, in terms of education, in terms of security. So anybody who doesn't want to take class Okada knows that you can come into Lagos and the next thing to do is to ride Okada or to do some other things that become a fan site. The person is getting in front. We have places for people who are the new refugees, you know, for them to be able to cater for them to be able to be allowed to pick up the pieces of their lives. And, you know, Lagos is a place where anybody, son of nobody, can come and become somebody that everybody is talking about. So we also put that one there as a place where your dream can come through, where everybody can come and become whatever he or she wants to become. So that does not mean that Lagos is no man's land, so anybody who can come in. Genuine refugees.
Yes, I know that we have a figure to it.
Yeah.
1,656 registered refugees and 611 asylum seekers from 34 countries.
That's outside the internally displaced people from other states of this country. The governor said it's the responsibility to offer protection to refugees it's a question of human rights and not a privilege. Now, but the question is, I remember during the tenure of the former governor of Babatunde Raji Fashola, he said Lagos has a kind of inelastic size, and then the facilities and all that cannot be extended or stretched beyond a particular point. Now, when you continue to take the refugees and the IDPs, how well are you actually aligning this with the structures and the facilities in place? Do you not think the facilities will be overstretched to the point that it will become a crisis?
That is why every day Lagos is thinking ahead in terms of education. We are doing more schools every day. In terms of housing, we are doing new housing projects every day. And in terms of safety of their lives and property, we are strengthening the security system every day. So if the UN says that you are to be able to be refugee friendly, there's nothing you can do about that, because you also have to carry the burden of humanity. You look at it that what has happened that has made people to become refugees is not of their own making most of the time, and that no matter how tight things are for you, you must be able to find space for people who have found themselves in this kind of situation. It's only civilized for you to do so. It's only normal for you to do so as a member of the human community. So that is what we are doing in Lagos. We are space for these people, and we do not pray, and we do not wish, and we do not plan for refugee population to continue to increase all over the world, even though we all know what the world is going through now. We know what we are going through in our country. We know what is going on in the Ukraine-Russia war, and so many other conflicts in Africa that people are not even talking about. So if you in some parts of our country, people can no longer go to their farms, people can no longer go to their trading places, to markets. There are some places you cannot even go to worship centers. So we understand all of this, and we cannot say that because Lagos is being overstressed, and then we want a gate at Baga or a gate against people. No.
All right, there's this disturbing rating I saw that Lagos has the highest number of food insecure people among the 21 states and FCT, and this analysis was done by the federal government. Now, what are the policies or plans of this administration to tackle this challenge in Lagos?
Well, we all see all manner of figures, all manner of postulations and speculations about Lagos having food insecurity and all of that. I think it's not true. Lagos is building the biggest rice mill in Africa. This is going to be commissioned in a matter of a week now, as we do. People are rushing to supply us with paddy. Lagos has a very solid agri program. Recently, we launched a 5-year agri development program, which so many people have embraced. Lagos has a program under which people get a land to go and farm. Lagos has a plan for livestock. You know, the livestock value chain, how to improve it. You bring cattle to Lagos, you just don't bring cattle onto the market like that. There is a place that you have to take them to where when they are kept for some time, they become bigger than they are, they can breed better than they are. So there is a solid agricultural plan that we should and ensure that Lagos does not fall into any food crisis, no matter the speculation of anybody that is planning. There's a very solid plan concerning land program in terms of research about what we are good at. All the agricultural products of Nigeria, Lagos constitutes over 50% of them. So for us in Lagos, so long as the economy is doing well, there can be no problem about food security, because already the Ministry of Agriculture has a very well thought out program, in 5-year program that was launched and everybody is embracing. So in terms of livestock, in terms of other areas of agri, where there are plans on how to improve.
Okay, I recall that just a couple of days ago, Lagos State hosted the Southwestern State, that is 3 states, an agricultural workshop. Well, actually fun, because I see Lagos with the Lagos that has the most limited land space when it comes to agri. Why, for instance, why was Lagos chosen as the host? And then what was the focus of the workshop?
Well, any place can host any talk at any time. The Lagos, when we talk about agri, it's not just about tilling the land. Lagos is the biggest supplier of fish in around us. It's even said that this particular kind of fish they call tuna, that Lagos asked the highest number of tuna fish all around us. Recently, as recent as last week, Mr. Governor went to open a market for built by our senators in effect on Thursday. You know, so if you get to affairs that agri and some other places in Lagos, you see that Lagos is very strong in fishing, and most of these fishermen they don't even have people to buy their food. So what Lagos is doing for them is to get them off takers, so that they can go and do their job, and then these guys will just come and buy everything of them, so that they can have more money for their sweat. So if you are talking about agri, it's not just all about
land, agricultural land.
You know. So Lagos is doing a lot. We are building a very big, you know, conglomerate of fishermen, you know, fishing companies who are going to be coming to a particular space around the country to operate under a program that we are working on, and then they are already even doing the preliminary work. By the time we by the time we begin to run it, everybody will see that Lagos is a giant to reckon with in history.
All right, so that's one part of the topic. We want to talk about infrastructures. That should be one side of what is happening in Lagos. So let's talk about the infrastructural scorecard for this administration, because it's also on record that Lagos has accounted for over 71% of the nation's $1.5 billion foreign direct investment in this first quarter of 2022. So a huge part of it is coming from only Lagos State. So let's look at the scorecard for the infrastructure development in Lagos State.
If we are talking about infrastructural development in Lagos State, we can discuss that from now to tomorrow, because all of the things that the administration of instabilization will have done in education, in transportation, in agri that we have just spoken of, and in so many other aspects. In housing, there are thousands of housing units that have been built. Just on when they commissioned one around Agege, people who are displaced by the Pennsylvania Bridge construction. About 5 years ago, they were giving back their homes. They have stayed in that place for over 30 years, and they felt that the government was lying. The government was not going to fulfill its promise. When the government said it was going to restore them to their homes. So the tracks were deleted, and then they were restored to their homes on Wednesday last week. So free of charge. Government did not collect money from them. So they found that incredible. Then you look at what we are doing in transportation, the junction improvement program, Alenado, Maryland, Lekki, roundabout 1 and 2, and Ikotin. And you see that the traffic situation that we talked about is getting better. You see what we are doing in COVID-19 has taught us how to ramp up all of the facilities we have in there. Our hospitals on Abbey Road, Lagos Island, Isolo, they are being rehabilitated, and you get there now, the services are better, and many of them are staffing. And then see all of the things that we have done in modern child hospitals, in Kadagri, in Epe, so many of these hospitals in Josa that people are now seeing that in Lagos, infant mortality has collapsed. Unlike before when it was not, people can be confident of going to hospital and having a childbirth, and then be sure that all will be well. No, now when you get mother and child hospitals in Kadagri, in Kiosa, in Belkodu, and all these places, you can see that things are fine. Or the housing projects that we have delivered, and the ones that we are going to deliver, housing projects Lagos Island, in Bogo, in Epe, in Badagry, and so many other places like that. So if you look at all the roads that we are going to, the one that Lagos Lekki Expressway, and all the roads even Lagos Badagry Expressway that people have been talking about, and so many other ones that the government has been able to deliver, and the one is going to deliver in terms of the bigger infrastructure of the future, the rail infrastructure, the blue line and the rail line. So if you want to talk about the infrastructural development in Lagos, you can stay here till tomorrow and we need to talk about it, and we won't have the time to finish up.
I'm really happy about that resettlement for people displaced at Agege.
Yes.
That's a very good one.
They were in July now. In the next 10 months or thereabouts, Governor Babajide will be winding up. Will actually be finishing his first term. Now, are there still things you have not accomplished as part of your plan for the first time? That's if it comes back next term.
There are so many things that we are planning to do that we are yet to do and that we are going to do. Things that we made the Goshen's happy. Like I have said, we will want to see first quarter of next year that the Goshen's are using the red line and the blue line rail projects. That will take some pressure off the roads. And then we would like to see, for example, Massey Street Children's Hospital that is going to be the biggest in Africa, the biggest pediatric hospital in Africa that people are using. We would like to see that the mental health center in Tete Business Commission, we would like to see so many housing projects that we have embarked on, that they are Ogonosa and the rest of them, that they are commissioned. We would like to see all the roads in Ikodu, Oba Sekumade Road, Okolatini Road, Jogo Road, Ishebe Road, Phase 2. We want to see all of them delivered.
In other words, the governor has so much in terms of giving his account of stewardship when he's talking, when he's going, for his campaign. That's come October. He has a lot to tell Lagosians about what has happened.
Lagosians have been able to see the kind of things that Mr. Babajide can do in education. Look at the brand new school in Elemoro. Look at the one we opened last Wednesday in Agege, the first of its kind in Nigeria. Schools filled with sporting facilities, with laboratories, with digital facilities, modern schools.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. It's been a pleasure having you.
Just as he said, we will need 2 hours to discuss the infrastructure development.
There's so much to talk about Lagos State, and also to keep people abreast of what this administration is actually doing and has accomplished. Thank you so much, sir, for coming. Wish you the best as we go move on. All right, that's our program this morning. We want to thank you for being a part of it. We'll be back on Monday for another edition of the program. My name is Jumoke Michael. See you then.
Mine is Banji Busari. I say Barka de Salah in advance to all Muslims across the globe. Bye-bye.